Well, the MAGA base is waking up and they are not happy. At a recent town hall, Republican Congresswoman Ashley Hinson made the mistake of saying the quiet part out loud, and House Republicans are getting clobbered. Let's take a look at this first clip.
I was also proud to vote for President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill last week. This is a generational investment. This is a general investment. This is your time. Okay.
This is a crowd of Republicans. This is a crowd of Trump voters. These are Ashley Hinson's own constituents, and they are booing her. And when she tries explaining to them, hey, Trump's fighting for you, the crowd says, no, he's not. Take a look.
The election, I think Americans overwhelmingly rejected the status quo for the country. We were seeing an open border, high inflation. We were seeing hardworking men and women in Iowa and our country feel like their voices were not heard. Families in Iowa have told me for the last 4 years that we want to make sure we have safe streets, we have affordable groceries and gas, and that kids have opportunity to be able to live out the American dream. And that is what President Trump is delivering for us. And the president is, I believe, fighting for you and fighting for me. I'm fighting alongside of him. And I think God saved President Trump's life in Butler. I think he saved his life in Butler, Pennsylvania for a reason. I think that he is helping us to save and redirect the future of our country. He is helping deport criminal illegal aliens rather than letting them roam our streets freely. He is ending the abuses of taxpayer dollars rather than treating your money like monopoly money. And he's unleashing America.
This is not a blue district. This is not a protest. These are Republican voters, and they're sending a message, which is they're not buying Trump's sales pitch anymore. It is not only Ashley Hinson. Over in Nebraska, Congressman Mike Flood faced a revolt at his own town hall when he tried to say that this new Republican budget, the big beautiful bill, is going to reduce the national debt. It's not. It's going to increase it. And you actually hear shouts from the crowd of, you're making it worse. Take a look.
Why is it that only the rich benefit from this and the rest get stuck having to pay the debt later as we do with this bill?
Say that last part again. Sorry.
Why do we have to pay the debt later as we do with this bill?
This is not going anywhere. Obviously, it's the thing that I care the most about. This bill, while it isn't perfect, is the first time in generations that we've actually made major mandatory spending cuts. We have to grow the economy as much as we cut this in order to get out of this. Otherwise, here's the interesting thing to me, though. If we think this is uncomfortable tonight, imagine the day that comes when the bond market.
So this is politically significant, but there's some details here that I think are worthy of a little examination. Trump's big beautiful bill is this tax and spend package. It was passed at not even 7 a.m. Eastern time with chants of USA. It's a big loser, but they want to sell it as a win. In fact, they have to sell it as a win, but it's packed with huge giveaways to the ultra wealthy. That's the way Trump operates. Deep cuts to programs people rely on, very little for working or middle class Americans. Now, even Republican voters are starting to realize this is a con job. It's performative patriotism. It's fake populism. The Trump brand of gloss has worn off. And what's left is a party that governs for donors and for Trump's friends rather than constituents. And you know what? Good for some of these voters. It's not a lot yet, but good for some of these voters. They're waking up to it. Now, we should look historically at these intra-party revolts, Republican voters turning on Republican lawmakers, because it can go one of two ways. It can fizzle, isolated anger doesn't really spark a major call for a political shift, or they can be very impactful. And we can look at history. So think of the Tea Party rage in 2010. It felt like a grassroots uprising against the establishment, but it ended up really getting co-opted by wealthy donors and right-wing media. People like Joe Walsh ended up out of office and actually turning on the Republican Party bigger picture. It had real anger, but the Tea Party's anger was funneled right back into supporting the Republican Party. You got the Tea Party caucus. It was just a more extreme form of the Republican Party. Nobody was held accountable, and instead people like Paul Ryan and Ted Cruz rode that outrage to power. Now, think about 1968. Democratic voters, especially young ones, revolting against support of the Vietnam War by the Democratic Party. It led to the rise of Bobby Kennedy. It led to the collapse of the existing Democratic coalition. It made room for Nixon and the Republican Southern strategy. It didn't all necessarily work out the way we would have wanted, but it had impactful, meaningful change. So the question we now find ourselves facing is the anger we're seeing, the boos and the shouts and the rejection of Trump's economic agenda. Does it turn into action? If it's just catharsis for these Republicans who show up and scream, the party's going to be able to absorb it pretty easily. If it becomes organized, if it picks specific targets and says, we want these people out, if it shows up in primaries, if they break off into their own movement, then the Republican Party has a real problem. Because what we have not seen is an organized anti-Trump movement from within the Republican Party. George Conway, Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney. These are individuals, Republican voters against Donald Trump. We've interviewed some of them, certainly more thoughtful people than we've become used to seeing in the Republican Party. But it didn't lead to any serious revolt. And in fact, Trump got reelected relatively easily. So that's the question we now face. Which way do you expect it to go? After researching, writing, refining, The Echo Machine, my book, is finally out. This is not just a book about how American politics got so broken. It's also about what's happening right now and what we can still do to stop things from getting worse. Trump's been back in power. The results have been even more catastrophic than many feared, with targeting of political opponents and gutting democratic institutions, laying the groundwork to even further consolidate power. But the thing is that none of this is inevitable. The same forces that brought us here can be countered if we understand how they work and what to do about them. And that's what the Echo Machine is all about. Some say that without corporate media backing, books like this can't succeed. I think we can prove them wrong. You can get the Echo Machine right now at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, or by calling any local bookstore and asking them to order it. This book is more important than ever. If you care about what happens next, and I do, check out The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo.